Hello. Whoa!
Whoa! How did I get?
You're
How
not
did I
just
get
in
here?
a little box on my screen anymore.
Now we're both in a little box
Now
on the screen.
We're in the same box.
Well, it looks like a little box because we're distanced, but
That's
it
cool.
is a bigger box to you watching. And if you're watching, thank you. We're minutes away from Survivor episode, whatever it is, top 8. Went through a double boot. We haven't talked since our merge predictions, where we both correctly predicted Ellie. It was his winner pick, or his midseason winner pick. And then the very next week, he lost his preseason winner pick, Dwight. And then the week after that, we lost Janine, who we know has been low on our rankings for quite some time. And then last week, double boot. Let's talk about it, Zach. What did you feel going into this episode? Were you nervous? I mean, I'll pull up our little game we got going on here. You were up by 3. We lost. In the first tribal, we lost James, and I'll be honest, we both had James a little too high. The theory was, in my opinion, going into last week, because we didn't share our rankings. Obviously, we shared it with one another, but James had that knowledge is power, and once I found out they were splitting into two tribes of 5, I was like, well, that's not going to be when they get rid of James, because James is going to be able to have his pick. But he didn't play it, and he got cocky, and they let Noelle, of all people, kind of be the one to steer that boot. And we'll talk about Carla in a sec, because I think this is where Carla's game starts to take a tank, but we'll talk about it in what she decided to do in voting him out. And then Ryan in the second one was a little bit more predictable just based on where the edit was going. But again, it was fun to see Cassidy versus Ryan and to see that Cassidy was able to win over Jesse and Cody's votes and Gabler's essentially to get rid of Ryan. That was much more clear cut, I feel. But that James boot is like kind of, I think, the climax of this season.
Yeah, and I'll tell you that I still have Carla pretty high, just because I think she's playing a really great game, and again, she's in a pretty good spot overall.
Yeah, because she has an idol, and that's already.
But I don't necessarily think that this means. Whereas she was the clear winner. This isn't a winner prediction, by the way, like ranking wise. Obviously, this is, and also you guys can get to see like.
We
wow.
I get to glance over and cheat at his.
No, he's had his done
I have
for
mine
hours.
6 days.
But what I think is so interesting is that, like, again, where you thought weeks ago Sammy was going out, you were like, "There's no way Sammy is making it through." Sammy has made his way up through the ranks time and time again, and he showcases. This is what I was waiting for from Sammy. I was waiting for a moment when he would show himself as a mentally prowessed player, not just one navigating week by week, but one thinking long term. And he finally started to think long term, which is important, and you can't survive the game without it.
Because he's been saying, I want to make a big move, but it's all about timing. And I think we've learned that James waited too long to make the big moves, because he was calling the shots. James was the godfather on the island. Everyone would come to James. And I think that's kind of where Sammy was able to win over Carla. Because I think the big thing is Sammy doesn't go for James unless Carla's on board. Because it's an easy Owen boot. And we both predicted it. We had Ryan and Owen in the bottom spots. I think you had Ryan and Noelle, because we knew Noelle and Owen were in the bottom.
And a lot of times I just make my ranking, like, you'll send me yours and I'll have sent mine, or like I'll be making mine and I'll be like, I see why Owen's low, but also like I can predict a Noelle going first.
You had Owen in the 8 spot, I had Owen in the 9 spot, and I think it's because like Owen was on the outs. Like, he was the boot the whole episode until the end, when Noelle was like, I want to use my steal a vote to trick James, and then not using his knowledge is power, and then Owen voting with Noelle, and then Sammy and Carla jumping on board as well. I think Sammy, you're right, is playing his shots well. Yeah. My only worry is that he's been talking about making a big move for so long, and he wasn't able to until this week. And now that this week has happened, now I think he's back in the contender status. I always thought he was maybe like a losing finalist, kind of like a Xander, like never having the control but always wanting it.
No,
but now he's actually getting it.
He's probably, as of right now, my top winner pick.
Okay.
How are you feeling about your winner pick?
My winner pick, my preseason winner pick was Owen, but midway through I did change it to Cassidy, as we know. And I think that's another good segue, because my number one of the week, I know this is not popular because she doesn't have an idol, and she was the other option in a few boots now, but I think it's Cassidy. She gives me that mentality of the Erica, the Marianne, of like, she's always kind of an option, but she's never the primary option. And if you go into this week, we saw in the preview, Jesse's sitting comfortable. He's saying, I got 2 idols. I'm safe. I'm great. I feel great. The minute you say you feel great, you become a target. Now, the thing is, Jesse has 2 idols. So him and Cody should be safe. Him, Cody, and Gable are this little 3. But we also saw Jesse and Cody connecting with Cassidy. So I think if it shifts and everyone starts targeting Jesse and Cody, I think Cassidy will not be the one who gets the brunt of that, stray bullet. I think if anyone, it would be Gabler. But I really think it's going to come down to Cody and Jesse versus Noel and Owen versus Cassidy, Carla, Sammy, and then you have like Gabler in the middle. Who knows where he's going? I think there's just a lot of different divisions now, which is nice. And I don't think Cassidy's anyone's priority. She was only Ryan's priority, and she got Ryan out. And that's why I think this was such a great episode, because it was like the climax of everything that it's been building to. Sammy wanting to make that move. He finally made that move. Noelle wanting to make a move. Her finally making a move. Owen being in the minority, finally voting correctly. And then Cassidy finally wanting Ryan out, and she gets what she wants. So it's like, I feel like this was almost like a mid-season finale, because everyone's arcs were kind of fulfilled. We saw our big villain, James, go. We saw Ryan, who was just kind of an extra character kind of thrown in there. It was kind of reminding me of Roxroy in this year, where it's like, we like him, but he's not going to win. So it's like, this was a good episode to say bye. And now we got, I think, anyone could win except for maybe Gabler. And even then, if Gabler gets the end, I think he could make a case. But Cassidy's my number one, because I think she had a great episode, and I'm getting the winner vibes still.
I'm going to go backwards.
Oh, you're going to go 8-1?
My number 8 is Cassidy.
Ooh, okay, so why do you think Cassidy's going home this week?
So it's not necessarily that she's definitely going home, but,
but you're most likely, yeah.
So here's my thought process, and a lot of mine at the bottom,
I'm just going to jot yours down. So
all have the same kind of feeling.
Mm-hmm.
The minute your name's been thrown out in a tribal, you are no longer safe, in my opinion.
Right.
It does not mean that you are now, it doesn't mean that you're necessarily now like the number one target. But when you go week to week and you're like, if it were not so like crystal clear cut and like, you know, we were all voting for Ryan and then there was only one person who voted for Cassidy, but like to have multiple votes.
Well, this week it was just Ryan.
Sorry,
but in the past,
I'm talking overall.
Like
to have to have your name thrown out there multiple times before you're getting down to the wire of picks, people have to start eventually wondering why your name's getting thrown out so much. And where you have someone like Carla who has not needed to worry about something like that, you have someone like
of everyone, this is who's not gotten their names. Sammy's name has never come up for a boot. Carla's name has never come up for a boot. Jesse's name has never come up for a boot. Everyone else has been targeted to some extent, and Cody, I don't think has ever gotten a vote, but he's been talked about as a threat, but like those four are solid, whereas Owen was, you know, our week one target, and he's still being targeted. Noelle has been Cassidy.
Like, and I'll tell you right now who you just named in that, like, those are my bottom four.
Oh, okay.
Because again, like I'll be frank with the viewers at home. My watching over the last couple of weeks has been so spotty because I've been in work hell. So I've been trying to like do my watching while also working, which is always a hard thing to do. But in my world, and that's why the people who went, or like why we've stayed so consistent and why I have remained in first, is because the people who are like the people whose names have been thrown out consistently tend to be the ones who go. Yeah, except for the rare times when you have like
James. Or even James's name was coming up.
Or even a Shan, like going back, like Shan's name wasn't out there for a long time, and then all it took was one, and so that's why, like, even though Carla is high for me, I don't.
Is she your number one?
Yeah, she's my number one.
She's my number two. Because,
but at this point in the game, and then to let you go, at this point in the game, nobody is safe. You know what I mean? Like, even with an idol, you're not necessarily safe. To me, I go off of, like, if your name's been cast out there, you are automatically more of a threat because someone had to have some reason to name you a threat in the first place. It's only when those people start figuring out, like, why has no one said Carla's name? Why has no one thought of Sammy as a threat? Why has no one worried about Jesse?
Yeah.
Then it starts to be like...
Yeah. Well, I also think physicality also plays into it, and Carla just comes across as someone who's a little weaker, and we saw her win with a broken hand. Or a stitched up hand. She got stitches from that one challenge, and she won that challenge. So the thing with Carla, I have her at number 2 because she has an idol and no one knows about it. And I think that's still the key. And I read in a secret scene in an interview from Lindsay when she went home. Apparently, when Lindsay went home, Carla said that she was collecting beads for Lindsay, and Lindsay left with the idol. So everyone who knew about the beads, because everyone knows about the beads. So everyone's like, why doesn't anyone know Carla has an idol? It's because Carla told everyone that Lindsay left with the beads. So no one knows Carla has an idol. That's great. The problem is James, her number one, is gone. And I think her voting him out, if she gets to the end, how's she going to justify that to James when James had a power that could help her? Yes, it could hurt her because it's knowledge is power, and we saw that's why Gio went home. But I think also James didn't know Carla had the idol. Right. So Carla didn't have to worry about James stealing anything from her. She could have used James and used him as a weapon for her arsenal. I think the problem is now, because Sammy's the one who got Carla on board with it, and because Noelle is the one who played the advantage, Noelle and Sammy are getting the credit, Carla's not. So I hope that Carla, she's playing such a great game to get to the end, but I'm worried when she gets to the end, is she going to be able to sell herself if she doesn't have the resume in terms of making the moves herself? She seems to be an aid in a lot of plans, but I've not seen a move yet that is her move except for Gio, and that's pre-merge. And honestly, pre-merge, when you get to the jury, so many tribes are voting that didn't even meet Gio. Right. So it's like, I just hope she has that big move. That could be this week. And we see a guy with 2 idols who says in the preview who's very confident, and we see Gabler saying, Jesse and Cody are really tight. This could be a week where someone goes home with an idol or 2, and it would be crazy. But I think Carla's safe because no one knows about her idol. And I do have Jesse in 3 because he has 2 idols, and it's like, he'd be stupid not to play at least one of them. Yes, it's obvious he might give an idol to Cody because it was Cody's idol, and Cody gave it to him in case James uses advantage. Now that James's advantage is gone, I assume Jesse's going to give it back. But still, Jesse still has one idol, which is Janine's, which we haven't talked about on the show because we skipped over that episode. Goodbye. But that was sad for Janine. But great on Jesse.
But how do you not use it? You know what I mean? Like,
Janine handed it to Jesse because she was afraid that James would steal it from her. And actually, she handed it to Dwight. And Dwight went home, and everyone's like, "Oh, Dwight went home with Janine's idol," and it turns out Dwight slipped it. And Dwight was like, "He did not." But in exit interviews, Dwight was telling everyone, he's like, "Yeah, Janine's idol left with me." Yep, he was lying in exit interviews to create the suspense, and I love Dwight for that. Thank you, Dwight, because that would have ruined the suspense if he was like, "No, I just handed it to Jesse before I left." Because if Dwight had said, "Oh, I just left it to Jesse before I left," like that would have ruined the suspense. So to see Jesse pull out the 2 idols at the top of the episode, be like, "I have Cody's and I have Janine's," that was pretty epic. So I've Jesse at 3. I'm worried he's getting a little overconfident, and that could be a problem. But I feel like he's just not a target. And I think if they go after the 2, they're going to go after Cody, not Jesse. But I do have Cody at 4 because he also has an idol. So.
Well, I'm gonna go to the back of the ranking now.
Okay, you're going back to front. I'm going front.
You literally just named everyone in my top 3 or my top 4 except for my number 3. But I'll talk about them when I get there.
And I assume I know who your number 3 is based on what we said earlier.
Well, yes. So in my number 7 spot, I have Gabler. Gabler to me, and again, like he's made great relationships with Cody and Jesse since the merge, but my problem with Gabler is that he's still such a weak link overall that like it's a hard thing when you merge because it's like, well, do you get rid of the weak players? Because at this point you really need to get rid of the people who are going to consistently win challenges. But when you have someone who's so weak and someone who doesn't really favor your game and more becomes a hassle for it, I don't necessarily think that he's like, I don't think he needs to go home, but he's such an easy get rid of for someone like Cody and Jesse if they really like, if push came to shove and someone like Cassidy comes to them and is like, hey, listen, someone's trying to go after you. Let's make this week, let's make this week easy and just get Gabler out. Right. And then you have, I mean, like you don't think that Cody or they either all have to vote for one person and
Cody don't play an idol.
And Cody and Jesse just have such a big advantage right now that, again, like we're seeing so much talk up against them because of what's going on in the preview. And it's like, can it really be that easy? And like the answer should be no. But I mean, unless someone steals the idol or they give it away, I mean, the only way that I see
steal it now because James is gone.
Well, but steal as in like take the idol, like
kind of like what Jesse did.
Literally, like take it from the bag.
I don't know if there's a rule for that. I feel like that by now they should let us know if that's illegal or not because I don't think anyone's ever tried that. But.
And I maybe they just won't because that's not
also
poor sportsmanship.
You get caught too. That could be.
But also, I mean, that's for me like. Gabler's just so low risk overall that there's no reason to keep him for longer than you need to, and there's also no reason to get rid of him immediately. To be honest, that's why he's not the bottom for me.
Right. He's an easy boot if they need to pivot, but he's an easy person to beat at the end, so you want to take him far. And I think that's a problem with Ryan, too. And that's why I don't know if Cody or Jesse's going to win, because
I don't think Cody or Jesse are going to win.
Realistically, they should have gotten rid of Cassidy.
Right.
That was the right move. It just, Cassidy convinced him otherwise. And Gabler was the one who was like, we got to stick with Ryan and go Cassidy. And that's why I think Gabler's a lot smarter than people are letting on. And I think it goes back to the Ellie boot. he got his way over Ellie. They went with Gabler over Ellie.
Did he get his way because there wasn't a way to get him out? Or did he get his way because he was smarter? And like that's the thing is that, you know, I'd love to give him the credit, and I'll give him the credit that he's gotten farther than I thought. I expected a first merge boot with Gabler after his idols had expired.
Well, also, this is only the second tribal he's been vulnerable for, because the first tribal, they went to tribal, he was... Oh, no, he had his idol in the first tribal.
Yeah, no.
So this is the first time he's ever been vulnerable.
So that's
because he won immunity, too, after the...
Now that he is fully idol-less, like, he's fair pickings, and there's no way Cody and Jesse are turning against each other right now.
No.
Cassidy would be stupid to go with a Gabler over a Cody or a Jesse because who's going to provide you more safety, especially when one has two idols.
Yeah.
Like, to me, it just seems that I don't think Gabler has a piece in this puzzle for me anymore.
Yeah. If anything, it's giving me confidence because Gabler is actually my number... he's my number 6, so he's a little lower, but Gabler...
Who's your number 7?
My number 7 is... Well, I'm going top to bottom. So
is it Noelle, though?
Yeah.
Because she's my number 6. So
yes,
we swapped.
Just looking at the outlook of the game, if they're going the easy route, Cassidy is connected to Cody, Jesse, and Carla. Cody and Jesse also last week just pulled in Gabler and made a final 3 with Gabler. So that could be your 5, and they could easily steamroll. And let's say Sammy's also with Carla. That's 6. They could easily just get out Noelle and Owen here because Noelle and Owen have no protection. That's why I have them at the bottom. Spoiler alert.
Right.
We're kind of jumping all over the place.
We're jumping all over
7 is Noelle, 8 is Owen for me because I think between the two, Owen's a bigger physical threat in the meantime. Even though Noelle is, I think, a bigger jury threat. But I think the two of them are so clearly on the bottom that the only way they stay safe is if Sammy decides, like, I want to switch things up and uses, like, Cassidy or Carla to go after the 3 guys. In that case, Gabler could get a stray bullet, which is why I have him at 6, because they could very well want to put their votes on Cody, Jesse, and Gabler, but then because Cody and Jesse have idols, Gabler goes home.
And the reason... So I have Noelle at 6. First of all, I can't believe they have let her slide by.
I know.
Can't believe it.
Because she has not been winning stuff, so like you can get rid of her every week.
Cannot believe it. I would never have let her slide.
But, I mean, thank God, because the memes this week have been amazing. Anyone want papaya while James and Owen are literally going at it? Like, and that's another thing I loved about this episode. We got fighting, man. We got fighting. We got drama. It felt like Big Brother. Owen and James were
Anybody
fighting.
Want cake?
Anybody want cake? And that was what Noelle was.
Anyone want a
papaya? It was so good. But yeah, I think Noelle and Owen are on the bottom, and between the two,
and then,
both are threats to win at the end. So
I
think they're going to get rid of.
And then my 5 is Owen. The 5, my 4 at the bottom are just like, it's unfortunate. I just don't see. Except for Cassidy, we've been playing our own game all season of like we've got a big Cassidy fan versus a like I don't see it.
Oh, she's so good this week.
I don't see her as much of... I don't see her as a winner over someone like Sammy, who's my number 3. And now we've pretty much ironed out all of our rankings.
Yes. The only thing I don't have for you is your 2 and your 4, which is Cody, which is Jesse. Is Jesse your 2 and Cody your 4, or is it vice versa?
Cody's my 2, Jesse's my 4.
Cody's your 2, Jesse's your 4. Okay.
And Jesse's only lower than Cody because of what they've done to him in this promo, where I was you should be the safest person in the world.
Well, and that's why...
somehow it seems like you're not going to be.
And the reason I do I'm going back to Cassidy. Cassidy has consistently said, I feel good, I feel in control, and that's usually a setup for going home. Last week she said, I'm going to get Ryan out, finally, and they showed that package of her talking about her dead sister and stuff, and like they were almost setting it up to where she was going home, but then she didn't. She got away, which makes me think that if you were going home, that's the stuff they would give to someone who was going home. Remember last year when Hai went home? That whole episode was about his childhood and all that stuff. But do you think
maybe they're trying to subvert and set up like a really almost like a Ricard, where like we were learning a lot about Ricard and Shan for a while, and then when Shan went home and we had Ricard, we were learning even more about Ricard.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. Maybe I'll eat my words. Maybe you'll be sitting here the winner, and that would be fine with me. Yeah, but
I feel like when they give you so much like confident like confessionals, because I feel like everyone says at some point, I feel really secure. The fact that they showed it and she didn't go home. Usually when they show it, someone's going home. And that's what I'm worried about Jesse, is like that he's getting too confident to where they show him and he looks dumb and goes home. That's kind of what happened with James.
But you have to wonder also,
Cassie survived.
After a certain point, because this is where we talk about like someone like CBS versus ABC. When you get too predictable, your audience starts to stop. Like they disconnect because you look at it and it's like, oh, well, if I know what's going to happen all the time, then like, why watch? Why don't I just go to the internet for my spoilers and then like watch the recaps?
True.
Like these.
Thank you.
Um,
Even though if you're watching a recap 10 minutes before the episode starts, like, thank you.
Well, you'll get to see it.
Yeah.
And you'll get to see it play out in real time. But you
Yeah.
know, that's what I mean is it's so hard. This is why I'm a big fan of Survivor right now, because it's so hard to read every episode because you're only taking what you know from maybe an exit interview and then what you're seeing on the show.
Mm-hmm.
But what you're seeing on the show is certainly not necessarily the full 100 unadulterated like truth.
Yeah, because the way they were editing the episode too, it's like I said, I thought Cassie was going home when she got that big surge, when she was like, I feel so good, I feel so confident, and they showed her personal footage. I was like, oh shit, is this Cassie's episode? But then when she didn't, I was like, oh, okay, so she's good. And I think that's the thing we got to look at is like, does the personal content mean you're doomed, or does it mean like they're setting you up for something bigger later on? Because we got a lot of Jesse early on, which made me think he was going to be lasting long, and he has. But I don't really think we got a ton of like Cody personal content. Even Carla, I feel like she's been talking to a lot of others, not necessarily herself, like talking about her own personal journey. Like it was almost like talking about her sexuality with Gio and stuff. But so I'm waiting to see them and when they pepper in like their personal content, because I feel like a spike in personal content is either means you're next out. Kind of like Owen got it recently too, talking about his childhood and how he was bullied and stuff. So like I just, whenever I see that, I get worried that they're going home. But then Survivor, like you said, is like subverting our expectations.
Right.
So I'm liking it though. I'm liking
I'm
liking the editing, because I truly don't know who's going home. I thought it was going to be Cassidy and Owen, and then it ends up being James and Ryan. So like I think that's a good pro for CBS, and because I think, like I said, everyone except for Gabler right now, I think could win. Yeah.
Cool. Let's talk Dancing with the Stars real quick.
Since we only have a few more minutes.
Finale.
Great finale. I mean, we've been saying from the beginning, our prediction was Wayne from the top, but then ever since he got sick, I feel like that was kind of wavering, and we've kind of been on the Charlie, Gabby, Shangela train, and it ends up being, I think, the strongest Final Four I've ever seen.
So good. Well, and even like, I will say, I'm ranking wise, to put Shangela at 4th felt a little like, are you sure about that?
Yeah.
But all of them performed so strong that I can't even be upset about all of their placings, because it was just one after another. No weak dance that night.
Yeah, I think the thing is, Shangela I knew was not going to win, because the week before her and Daniel were in the bottom 2, which sucked, because I was like, that means Shangela's probably not going to win, because you could just tell, like, why would Shangela win if she was in the bottom 2 the week before, when the other 3 have never been in the bottom 2. So I knew it was going to be between the other 3. And then when Wayne got all 9s on his first dance and not 10s, I was like, all right, this is probably between Charlie and Gabby. But between the 2, I genuinely didn't know what America was going to do, because Bachelor Nation has been so strong with this show.
So strong.
They gave it to Hannah, they gave it to Caitlin, they got Grocery Store Joe, who I think is the worst dancer in the history of the show, to Final 6. So it's like, I don't know. I don't know what to believe.
Vinny
Guadagnino, yeah. I would say, Vinny, I think improved. Joe, I think just stayed constant. Joe was charming, but it was like, I
love
think
you, Grocery Store Joe.
I think Vinny improved. I think Vinny did well, but I think the right person won. I was a big
100%.
fan of Charlie.
And you know what? Something that we were talking about this a little bit before.
I was just going to bring that up.
Is you know, we last season we had a big. Thank you.
Brian says Len will be missed, and we'll talk about that in just a sec too. But
really?
Controversial take. We'll get there in a sec, but also thank you for this porno account. Have a
have a great time. Find your love.
His last name's Love, so we found him. All right, great. That's the beauty of being in studio together.
Thank you for boosting our viewership.
Yeah, and commenting 3 times. That's so nice.
But so the thing about like that we were saying last year when someone like JoJo was that we were like, oh well, it's JoJo. She's a professional dancer, blah blah blah. But then like we saw it not really pan out. Whereas like again, Charlie's not really a professional dancer. Mm-hmm. She's a professional dancer in that like she became famous on TikTok. But like.
And I heard rumors she did have like competition training when she was young.
But competition training is not ballroom.
Exactly.
It's not ballroom, man. Competition training is not the same as ballroom dancing. What is so awesome to see about this is that when you, first of all, to watch someone so young win, because she is she the youngest winner?
I was about to say, I think she's the youngest winner, and I do have some other stats about her win. She's breaking records. I mean, she's not the most highly scored competitor. She's, I think, the 3rd overall highest scoring dancer on the history of the show.
Mhm.
And this show is 31 seasons deep,
Right.
which is saying a lot. And I believe Mark has had the most people in the finale of any pro. And Mark is second to Derek in terms of winners. He has now won his third. And Charlie, I believe, is the, I think, like third or fourth highest most amount of 10s across the season. And Len even said in his judgment, he said, I've never given someone 7 10s in a row. And I look back at her dances, 7 10s in a row.
Because every week she never missed what she was doing.
No. And there were weeks she got 9s because Carrie Ann decided to be like, I want to push you harder.
I'm enough. But there's so much heart to her dance, which, like, to make it a little less about the dance and a little more about the culture, right? Like, Gen Z and that, like, generation has come up to, like, they now realize how important their voices are and how important emotions and empathy and just, like, that is. So to watch her dance all these weeks and never miss on technique for sure, but the emotion of it, to have...
That's what her mom didn't have, was the emotion to back up the technique.
And honestly, that's not even what really someone like Wayne had. Like, Wayne's a great, like, suave, super great dancer, but Charlie has, like, her face she was always emoting. Her body moved with everything going on. You had someone who was so fresh and green versus someone who is super seasoned, and you can see where it is important to never, and this is just as, like, a performer, right? It is important to never grow comfortable. You must slide into the discomfort of something.
I almost feel like that's what happened with Gabby, and she was amazing, but, like, I feel like something about Charlie always felt fresh every time she performed, whereas Gabby, I was like, there were some dances I couldn't really differentiate from one another, whereas Charlie, every dance felt unique. Probably my favorite winner since Jordan Fisher, and next to Jordan Fisher, maybe my favorite winner ever. Like, really such a good winner. And I get the whole argument, they all have dance experience, but so did Shangela, drag queen.
They all do.
Wayne was on Broadway in Kinky Boots, and of course Gabby was a dancer for the NFL.
To even go back to, like, you know, like Iman winning, like professional athletes may not have ballroom dance training, but
they have coordination.
They have discipline. Like, that is, you know, the person who...
Some athletes, not Joseph, Arnold Schwarzenegger's son.
Oh, no, not at all. But, you know, like, someone like Vinny is who the show is built for. Like, Vinny Guadagnino is the person it's built for.
Yeah, or Daniel,
But you know what? You don't have 16 Vinny Guadagninos ready to take on this show. And if you did, a lot less people would probably watch. Not because they're not, like, that's not what the show is, but, like, people want to see, like, 10 scored most weeks. People don't want to see, like, it's amazing when you have someone like Iman who doesn't have the ballroom training, has discipline and has coordination, but, like, is really, like, stiff from week one and builds into this. What was great about Charlie is that people probably had an expectation about Charlie. You did. I did.
Yeah. We thought she would just be, like, another, like, I can dance and I'm...
People have an expectation about Charlie. It was like Olivia Jade, right? Like, Olivia Jade's not necessarily a celebrity, but, like, she started delivering every week, and we were like, yes. And then when she left, we were like, well, why is she leaving? Yeah. Because she's doing what the show... And that's the thing about Charlie, is that even with a little bit of dance training, she was doing what the show intended, which was never stopping improvement. Yeah. You were always getting better.
Yeah, I love Charlie, and, like, I shared all the stats. But let's go back to Brian's point really quick before we end this, and then we talk about. We'll close it out and tease, I guess, the next episode, which will probably be the next Survivor, and we'll talk some Bachelor in Paradise because there's a lot to catch up on there. But we'll do that next time. But Brian says Len will be missed. I've always liked Len because he's kind of like that. He's the Simon Cowell of Dancing with the Stars. It's like he needs to be a little tough. But I always like how he stayed true to the style. He was like not all about the gimmicks and the shenanigans. And I know you agree with this because you don't love lifts as much. He was always like, I just would care about the content and how you hold your arms up. And I'm like, that's what I really appreciate, is that he was always like about the technique, whereas Bruno was more about the performance and Carrie Ann was more about like the emotion. Like, they all kind of have their own thing, and Derek is just the experienced younger dancer. All of them have danced, but like he's like the younger, fresher dancer. So I think it's just cool to have that widespread array of talents. But Len is just a staple of the show, and that's why him announcing his retirement was a little bittersweet. Also because like he should be with his family. He's in his like late 80s, so I'm like, go be with your family in London, and thank you for 31 years. I mean, him, Bruno, and Carrie Ann were there from the beginning. They've lasted almost 16 years with the show because there's 2 seasons per year. So like that was amazing to see. But give me your hot take on Len.
I think it's just time for him to be done.
Yeah.
Not that I don't like him as a judge, but also I don't like the format that they have right now. I hope that they don't replace him. I don't need it doesn't need a fourth judge.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know what the problem is that the tiebreaker is not really a tiebreaker. It's whoever Len wants.
Right.
And that's not a tie. That's a like, if two people are hot on, like, for example, like, if two people are hot on you and one person is hot on me, then you should already be going through. Like, if the first two judges have decided, Dylan, you and Daniela, you're welcome.
Yes, I would.
You and Daniela are the couple that they are saving, and it took until the third for someone to say my name. I should go home. Because then only just because Len wants me to stay, I get to stay over you. Mm-hmm. But there's no we got the equal amount of votes.
Like, why is he the head judge when I think everyone has good expertise? That's
or
if it's a tiebreaker, just go back to America's votes. Be like, all right, then we're going to send him the person with the least amount of votes.
Have someone sit out of every vote. Like, week to week, if there's a tie, the first week, Carrie Ann will not be casting her vote tonight. Second week, Bruno will not be casting his vote tonight. Derek will not. And that way, like, at least it's not. Yeah. It just got frustrating because then you start to see Len as like extra. Mm-hmm. As for me at least,
because he would always get the last vote too. So it was almost like if it was unanimous, it seemed like his vote didn't matter because it was like, Len, what would you have picked?
But it doesn't make any sense because what if Len wouldn't have picked what the other three had picked?
Mm-hmm. And he's the head judge. He should be the first one.
Right? Why wouldn't they get through? Mm-hmm. And that's like. I will miss Len because I do think that Len adds so much to the show because it's his idea. It's his brainchild. But like, I think it's the right time for him to leave because you have someone like Derek on the panel now who is so young, so fresh, and it comes off of what it takes to be on the show.
Yeah, and there are rumors now because also Cheryl announced her retirement. I also thought it was sweet that she went out with Sam because Sam was never going to be her best partner ever. No. But she's won Mirrorball. She doesn't care about winning. She wanted to be with her friend, and Sam and her were good friends, kind of like the Selma Sasha thing. Like, they were just real life friends. Cheryl, this is her last season as a dancer. She indicated that very clearly, like, as a dancer she's done. But she said she wants to judge, so like maybe they would have her on as a fourth judge or a guest judge. There's also Strictly Come Dancing, which is the British version of Dancing with the Stars. There's talks that their head judge might come overseas, kind of like what Len did, because Len, I think, was originally over there. Yeah. They brought him overseas because they needed a last minute replacement.
What is the British?
Strictly Come Dancing or Strictly something like that. I don't know. Yeah.
Strictly, I forgot.
There's a movie called Strictly Ballroom, so I always want to say that, but it's like Strictly Come Dancing, and it's usually just British people. Yeah, like Gordon Ramsay's daughter was on it.
Yes, Strictly Come Dancing or whatever it is his original brainchild. This is the spin-off of what?
Yes. Yeah, Strictly Come Dancing. I just looked it up. Yeah. Len and Bruno were both judges on that. And also Mark Ballas's mom. And Mark Ballas, again, third Mirrorball. So cool. But yeah, it would be cool to get Cheryl or just no one. Or have like a guest judge every week. And like, if and they don't get the vote. No. They're there to give the score.
They're scoring, but they don't cast the vote.
Because the scores already factor into how you do. Because like, it's like scores are compiled with the votes. I always want to see the breakdown of how that works because I don't trust it all the time.
I don't trust
and then and Brian gets to the opinion that we all agree. And that's I hope Tyra leaves. And bringing in Alfonso this year was the greatest thing that they did for the show. Even 100%. Though he needs to get a little bit more used to the cue cards and reading everything.
But it also how do you
like calling Shangela Angela? Like
how do you do that when someone's literally like this on your shoulder the whole time
like
trying
Gabby?
To be
Tyra.
Yeah, Tyra, literally trying to be like the host, and you're like, okay, enough from you, friend. Like, leave me alone.
And Tyra, I believe, is a producer on it, so I don't think she's going anywhere. But again,
goodbye, Tyra.
It's cool to have Alfonso there though, because like now we're on Disney Plus, so the episodes are longer. There's no commercials, and now we just get time to like kind of get to know these celebrities better because there's more longer interviews. The judges actually don't feel rushed for time. I like the Disney Plus format. I don't think it's losing too many people, and the people it's losing, their grandkids have Disney Plus. Ask your grandkids; they'll let you have it. Because all the people on Facebook complaining about it seem to be of the same demographic. I don't mean to be demeaning toward y'all, but like. Ask your grandkids. They definitely watch with the Marvel movies. They definitely have Disney Plus. But I like the change. I think it's great to have no commercials. It just kind of flows. I like how the other pros get to shine even when they're voted out. Great season, though. Charlie and Gabby get a 10 for the season. I would give Shangela a 9.5, and I give Wayne an 8. Just because Wayne fizzled out at the end. But I think that's only because he got sick and then his schedule got super busy. And that's another thing, too. Charlie had the time to devote to it, and it showed. So, and Gabby's going to be hosting the tour, which is cool.
My scores are the same.
Yeah, so you can find me here at Don't Pick a Movie Network if you're watching. It's kind of crazy we're in the same window. I don't know if we'll do this again. We will. I don't know if we'll do this every time, I said. I meant to say. Who had the recipe for reality, though, this week? I know mine, and I kind of alluded to it. It's Charlie D'Amelio for me. And Mark. Let's say joint for me.
I'm going to say it's Shangela.
Shangela, okay, cool.
Shangela's just so good.
And you know what? Also, Natasha, a.k.a. Gleb's drag ego. I was wondering why. Well, because Shangela performed first for the redemption dances, and I was like, why is she going last for freestyles? That's 7 dances in between. Then I realized it's because Gleb had to change.
Could get
and that was
glammed.
When Natasha came out, I was like, who is this? And I realized it was Gleb. I was like, holy crap, it's so good. And then the chicken legs dancing, it was amazing.
You can find me here in my house.
Yeah,
and then all the things below.
And thanks for everyone who watched.
Normally I'm over here. Normally I'm here.
Yeah, sorry this is a bit shorter. We want to get this in before Survivor starts in 3 minutes, and we will not be watching live, but we'll probably be watching it tonight. Honestly, we're both here. Thanksgiving, I get to be home. Yay! But yeah, thanks for watching. Comment down below what you want to see. If you want to see us talk about Bachelor in Paradise, or you just don't care, because honestly, we could or not. I'll always be here to give my opinions on that, but like.
I will also be here to give my opinions.
Yes, but we already know Zach's opinion every time.
They're not good opinions.
But we'll be back to talk more about Survivor, especially because in 3 weeks, I believe, is the finale, which is crazy. It's so soon. I'm hoping one of these days Zach just watches it and is like, you know what, Cassie rocks. I want her to win. We'll see. Maybe this week, maybe or maybe she'll go home and I'll be eating my words next time. But anyway, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Maybe in our own places, maybe in different places, maybe in the same place. Bye.